Hey guys, this is Thomas Wells, the body mechanic. I'm going to do a little video today on tennis elbow. So tennis elbow, also known previously as lateral epicondylitis, now lateral epicondylopathy, is basically just pain and tissue thickening and derangement on the outside of the elbow. They call it tennis elbow because a lot of people who do any sort of gripping or racket sports often develop pain there. But honestly, in my practice, I would say 90% of people who get this have never picked up a racket. It's just something that people are prone to. We use our hands a lot, we grip a lot, we move around a lot while gripping things, and all of that can predispose people to pain on the outside of the arm. So I'm going to give you some mobilizations to do to help with this. Something that's a little different from maybe other videos you might come across here is that I'm also going to give you a stretch to do that addresses pain on the outside of the arm that isn't actually tennis elbow. Because a common thing that people mistake for tennis elbow is actually radial nerve pain, because you've got the radial nerve running down the outside of the arm through here and right under the brachioradialis muscle. And it'll often give people pain right on the outside of the arm. So I'm going to give you a nerve mobilization for that. I'm going to give you a stretch for the flexors of the arm. So that's the muscles that do the gripping, because oftentimes they're out of balance with the extensors, which are the muscles that actually attach onto the lateral epicondyle. And then we're also going to do a stretch for the shoulder, because instability at the shoulder will often result in tension on the outside of the arm. Okay, so the first thing we're going to focus on is the flexors. So you can do this with just your hands. I personally like using a rope or a yoga strap for this. So what you're going to do is you're just going to hook your fingers on it. You're going to start with your elbow bent and you're pulling the wrist down. So using the rope just frees you up from having to do weird reaching maneuvers with your uninvolved hand. So you're going to start like this, and then you're going to extend your arm out as you pull back on that rope, stretching the fingers and the wrist back. And what you can do is you can play around with angles to see where you feel the most pull. If I go a little bit outside there, I feel the most pull. Just hold for a couple seconds and come back in and repeat. Hold for a couple seconds, come back in. Now, moving in and out like this is going to accomplish two basic things. One, it's not going to give the muscles as much opportunity to tighten up to try to resist the stretch, which they do tend to do. The body tends to try to avoid stretching whenever possible. So just by doing a couple seconds at a time, it helps avoid that response. But also, you've got a couple layers of muscle here, and sometimes a lot of the tension we get here is due to those layers having become somewhat adhered to each other. So anything we can do to try to create more relative motion between those layers of muscle is better. So if you start like this, that flexes, or it puts under tension one layer more so than the other. But then when you straighten the arm, it adds motion to that other layer. So it helps create that relative motion. So you're just going to do this maybe 15 repetitions of a couple seconds each. Okay, so it's not going to be a static hold. None of these are going to be static holds. Okay, now we have for the shoulder. This one I especially like using the rope for. So you're going to hook your fingers around it and bring it around the back of your arm like so. Okay, and you're going to have your arm up sort of in like a please don't shoot me position like so. So about 90 degrees here, 90 degrees here. And the rope is wrapping around the underside of your tricep. What you're going to do is you're going to start here, rotate backwards, then use this hand to help pull yourself into more rotation. Okay, so you're actively pulling back, but then you're assisting yourself with that pull. They call this an active assisted stretch. Going back, pull back, just like so. Again, about 2-second hold each time. Rotate back, and you're going to do this about 15 reps. Now lastly, we're going to do the nerve glide for the radial nerve in here. So for this one's a little bit of a dance to get the movement just right, but it's going to look basically like so. First thing you're going to do is you're going to lean your head towards the arm that you're doing the stretch on. That's going to take stress off the nerve roots up in here and off the brachial plexus, because under no circumstances do we want to take both ends of a nerve and pull them apart from each other. Nerves do not like stretching. They like moving, they don't like stretching. So anytime we're pulling one end, we're gonna slack the other so that it has more freedom to move and we create less tension on it. So we're gonna slack the proximal end of the nerve by leaning to the right. I'm gonna have you close your fingers around your thumb and bring your arm up like so. Internally rotating, so your arm's up at maybe a 45 degree, flexing the wrist, bringing it back behind you a little bit, bending the wrist and twisting palms down. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna reverse all of that, bringing the arm in and opening the hand up into a relaxed position. From there, you can lean your head the opposite way to stretch the proximal portions of the nerve, and then repeat, leaning your head over, close your fingers around, bring your arm back like so, collapse it back in, and lean. So it's a little bit of a dance. The head and the arm are always doing something different. They're never in this position. That's the main thing you're avoiding, is ever getting into that position. Now, unlike the previous two stretches, since we're not really stretching anything, we're just trying to create motion, you don't have to hold the position. So you'll just lean in, bring your arm back, bring it back in, lean away. You can still do 12 to 15 reps. That number is still good. But again, just don't hold it. You don't want to create any sort of irritation in there. If you start feeling a little bit of numbness in the hand or arm, as long as it doesn't get bad, that's okay. When you're moving nerves and mobilizing nerves or otherwise working with them, it is not unusual to get a recreation of a little bit of symptoms, but that should go away right away when you're done. If it doesn't, obviously this mobilization is not for you, but that's extremely uncommon. So again, it's okay if you feel a little bit of tingling when you do it, as long as it goes away when you're done, that's not a problem. But if you do those pretty regularly, that can really help with the pain on the outside of the arm, because again, it's a little bit of a spitball approach, getting a lot of the common contributors to tennis elbow. So other things I end up looking for in clinic, in addition to shoulder stability and flexor tension and the radial nerve, I also look at things with like the annular ligament in the elbow, where people have problems with pronation and supination. Sometimes people will have weakness in their hand or problems in their wrist. More often than not, elbow problems, just kind of as a rule, are usually caused more by something further down or higher up. They're rarely a purely local problem. An exception being the radial nerve pain, because sometimes that can be an entrapment, very much local right here, or it can be higher up in the shoulder or even the neck that is giving pain that travels down to the arm. So certainly feel free to come in and have me take a look if this isn't resolving it for you. But this should at least help, and it'll do more for you than the little straps, and certainly more for you than popping pills on a daily basis. So give it a try. Let me know what you think.